The sun was sinking behind the Arizona desert, painting the sky in streaks of burnt orange and violet. The asphalt shimmered with leftover heat, and the sign for Desert Star Motel buzzed faintly, half the neon letters long dead. A single car sat in the parking lot, a dusty blue Ford with a dented bumper and one working headlight. Ethan Cole killed the engine and sat still for a moment, watching the last light fade from the horizon. He was exhausted, not from the drive but from what he was running from. His fingers tapped the steering wheel, restless. In the passenger seat, a small key tag glinted in the dying light. Room 217, he picked it up, felt the weight of it. It wasn't just a key. It was a reminder of a promise he'd made 3 years ago, one he'd tried and failed to forget. The motel office smelled like dust and cigarette smoke. Behind the counter sat an elderly man in a faded sheriff's jacket, reading a yellowed newspaper. He looked up as Ethan entered. "Evening. Room for one?" the clerk asked, voice dry as sand. Ethan nodded. "A reservation under Cole." The man checked his ledger, an actual paper book, not a computer. "You're early," he said, frowning slightly. Ethan blinked. "Early?" "Your buddy already checked in." Ethan froze. "I didn't come with anyone." The old man shrugged. "Tall fella, dark hair, suit jacket. Said he was with you." Took the key to 217. For a moment Ethan couldn't speak. His throat tightened. His pulse began to climb. "You gave him my room?" "He had your name," the clerk said simply. "Showed me an old driver's license. Looked like you, just younger." Ethan felt a chill creep down his spine. He'd lost his wallet 2 weeks ago, along with an old photo he kept inside. Someone must have found it. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mind giving me a spare key?" The old man hesitated, then reached under the counter and handed over a duplicate tag. 217. "You boys keep it quiet. Folks come here to forget their noise." Ethan nodded, pocketed the key and stepped back into the dusky light. The air outside was still, heavy with the smell of dust and gasoline. The parking lot was empty except for his car and another one, an old black sedan parked 2 spaces down. Its windows tinted too dark to see through. He stood there for a moment, staring at the door marked 217. The curtain inside was drawn tight. A faint yellow light glowed beneath the frame. He approached slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel. The closer he got, the colder the air seemed to feel, as if the heat itself refused to touch that room. At the door, he paused, listened, a sound, faint, metallic, like something small rolling across a table and hitting the floor, then silence. He slid the key into the lock, turned it slowly and pushed open the door. The smell hit him first, not rot, not blood but something else, a strange mix of aftershave, dust and old paper. The room was dimly lit by a flickering lamp on the nightstand. The bed was unmade. The window was half open, curtain fluttering in the dry wind, and on the table sat a small box, wooden, scratched and old, with his name carved crudely on the lid. Ethan's breath caught. He stepped closer, his heart pounding in his ears. The box wasn't there when he'd last been in this room. He knew because the last time he was here 3 years ago, this room was soaked in blood. He reached out and touched the box. It was cold. Inside something rattled. He opened it and froze. Inside lay a single Polaroid photo of himself, sitting on this very bed, taken from across the room, and in the background of the picture, just barely visible in the mirror, stood another figure, blurred but unmistakably there, someone else in room 217. Ethan stood frozen, the Polaroid trembling in his hand. His reflection flickered in the mirror across the room. Alone now, but the shadow in the photo still lingered in his mind. Whoever had taken that picture had been standing right where he was. The motel room was silent except for the faint buzz of the old neon sign outside. He looked around slowly. The curtains moved slightly in the breeze, brushing against the cracked wall. Dust floated in the yellow light from the bedside lamp. He placed the photo down carefully and looked at the wooden box again. Beneath the Polaroid was a folded piece of paper. His name was written on it in shaky handwriting. He unfolded it. It read, "You shouldn't have come back, Ethan. The room remembers everything. And so do I. No signature. Just a faint fingerprint smudged in red at the bottom." Ethan's throat tightened. He turned toward the bed. The sheets were tangled, the pillow stained. He remembered this room, every detail, every ghost of sound. 3 years ago, room 217 had been the last place he saw Claire alive. She'd been sitting on that bed, barefoot, crying. He'd promised her they'd leave that night. He'd gone to get gas for the car, 10 minutes, no more. When he returned, the door was open, the lamp was broken, and Claire was gone. They found her body 2 days later near the river, and Ethan was the only suspect. He was cleared. Lack of evidence. No motive the police could make stick. But he never forgave himself for leaving. And now the box, the photo, the note. Someone wanted him to remember. He knelt by the bed and checked under it, nothing. The floorboards creaked under his weight. He opened the dresser drawers one by one. Empty. Except for the bottom drawer, where he found an old motel Bible, its cover torn. Inside, a room service receipt was tucked between the pages. Date, July 11th, 2022, 3 years ago to the day of Claire's death. Room, 217. Order, 2 coffees. 1 slice of pie. Ethan stared at the receipt. His pulse quickened. The handwriting on the tip line, her handwriting. Claire's, he whispered, no, that's not possible. Then he heard it. A knock, 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the door. He froze. The clock on the nightstand ticked softly in the silence. He stepped toward the door, each movement careful, deliberate. Who's there? No answer. He turned the handle just slightly and peered through the narrow gap. The hallway was empty. Then, from the far end of the hall, came the sound of footsteps, measured, heavy, getting closer. A man's shadow appeared under the flickering light. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark coat. Ethan couldn't see his face, only the glint of something metallic in his hand. Ethan slammed the door shut and locked it, his breath quick and shallow. He grabbed his phone, no signal. Not even a single bar. The footsteps stopped just outside his door. Then, silence. A low, calm voice spoke. Ethan Cole, you shouldn't be here. Ethan's heart hammered. Who are you? You made a promise, the voice said. And promises don't die in this room. Ethan backed away slowly, eyes darting around the room. His gaze landed on the bathroom door, half open. The mirror inside reflected part of the hallway through the crack in the main door. He could see the man's shadow move, then disappear. He waited. 1 minute. 2. The hall was silent again. He walked to the window and peeked through the curtain. The parking lot was empty, except for his car and the black sedan. The driver's seat was empty. The back seat, he couldn't tell. The air felt heavier now. Every sound, every creak of the walls seemed amplified. He turned back toward the bed and stopped. The Polaroid on the table was gone. The box was still there, the note too, but the photo missing. Ethan's stomach twisted. He looked around frantically, searching the floor, the nightstand, the sheets. Nothing. Then, as he turned toward the mirror again, his blood ran cold. There, taped to the glass, was another photo, the same image but different. This time, the photo showed him standing by the table, staring at the first photo taken seconds ago. He stumbled back, his hand trembling. No, this isn't real. He grabbed the box again, turning it over, desperate to find something, anything that made sense. A small metal latch on the underside came loose. Inside was a folded piece of paper, older than the rest. The ink almost faded. It was a motel registration card. Name Claire Reeves, date July 11th, 2022, room 217, signature Claire R. And beneath it, another signature overlapping it slightly, Ethan Cole. His mind reeled. He didn't remember signing anything. But there it was, his name written in his own hand. The room seemed to hum faintly, like the walls themselves were alive. The lights flickered once, then twice. The air conditioner kicked on, blasting stale air. He backed up slowly toward the door. I'm leaving, he whispered to himself. I'm not doing this again. He grabbed his bag, his keys, and turned to go, but stopped dead. The doorknob was wet. He lifted his hand. His fingertips came away red. Blood fresh, and then the voice again. Right behind him. You left her once, Ethan. Don't do it again. He spun around, and the room empty. But the bathroom door had swung all the way open. From inside came a faint sound and dripping. He stepped closer, each footstep echoing against the tiles. The bathroom mirror was fogged, though the air was cold. The sink was running faintly. He reached out, turned off the tap. Then, through the misted glass, words appeared slowly. as if written by an invisible hand. "I kept your promise." Ethan staggered back, heart racing. "Claire," he whispered, and from the reflection, just for a heartbeat, he saw her, wet hair clinging to her pale face, eyes wide, sorrowful. Then she was gone. Only the empty room stared back. Outside, thunder rolled across the desert sky, though no storm had been forecast. Ethan gripped the sink, trembling. He didn't understand, but one thing was certain. Whoever was in room 217 before him had opened something that was never meant to be touched again, and whatever had been left behind wasn't finished with him yet. The rain had begun to fall, slow, heavy drops tapping against the thin metal roof of the Desert Star Motel. Each impact echoed faintly through room 217, like a clock marking time that no longer belonged to Ethan. Cole. He stood motionless in front of the fogged bathroom mirror, staring at the words that had appeared moments ago. "I kept your promise." His reflection looked ghostly in the half-light, his pupils wide, his skin pale. The name Claire still trembled on his lips like an unfinished prayer. The mirror cleared slowly as the cold air replaced the steam, and his own face came back into focus. But something was wrong. His reflection wasn't moving with him. Ethan blinked once. The image blinked a second later. He stumbled backward, knocking over a plastic cup. No, this isn't real," he muttered. From somewhere deep within the room came the faint click of the old cassette player on the nightstand. It had turned itself on. The tape spun, a woman's voice, quiet and trembling, filled the air. "Ethan, if you hear this, I did it for us. I thought I could fix it. Room 217 keeps things. It keeps promises," the voice cracked. The tape hissed. Then silence. Ethan's throat went dry. That voice, it was her, Claire. He moved to the nightstand and picked up the player. It was old 1990s style, its brand logo half worn away. He opened the back. The battery compartment was empty. The tape had been playing with no power. His hands shook as he ejected the cassette. A small strip of masking tape was stuck on it, labeled in faded pen. July 11th for EC. He pressed the stop button, slid it into his jacket pocket, and looked toward the window. Outside, the parking lot shimmered under the growing rain. The black sedan was gone. In its place stood a single motel worker, dragging a trash can through the puddles, humming something out of tune. Ethan's eyes narrowed. The man wore dark clothes, but not the same coat. He was smaller, thinner, probably harmless, probably. He turned back toward the table. The wooden box was still there. The lid was closed again. He hadn't closed it. A chill ran through him. "No," he whispered. "Not again." He reached for the box slowly, as if approaching a sleeping animal. The moment he touched it, the lamp beside the bed flickered violently, once, twice, 3 times, then burst with a loud pop. The room fell into darkness. Ethan froze. He could hear the wind through the broken window screen, the rain pounding against the glass. And beneath it, faint, almost imperceptible, another sound. Breathing. He turned toward the bed. The shape beneath the sheets shifted slightly, as though something was lying there. He felt his legs go weak. He took a step forward, reaching with trembling fingers, and yanked the sheet away. The bed was empty, but the pillow was soaked. Not with water, but with something dark, sticky, metallic blood. He stumbled back, gagging. His shoulder hit the wall, knocking down a framed picture. It shattered on the floor. The photo inside wasn't of the desert landscape that should have been there. It was another Polaroid, a close-up of him, sleeping, taken in this very bed. He fell to his knees, gasping. "Who's doing this?" he whispered. The floor creaked behind him. Ethan turned slowly. A figure stood in the bathroom doorway, barefoot, pale, hair dripping. The same soaked dress from the night she died. "Claire," he breathed. She didn't move. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, until her eyes met his. Then they filled with tears. "You left," she whispered. He shook his head violently. "I came back, I swear." Her voice rose, overlapping itself, echoing unnaturally around the room. "You left. You said 10 minutes. You never came back. I didn't know," he shouted. "They told me I thought—" But his words dissolved into the storm as she stepped forward. The air around her shimmered, colder than the rain outside. She looked down at the wooden box. "He came here after you left," she said softly. "He promised to fix it." "He lied. Who?" Ethan asked, desperate. She raised her eyes to his. "The man who had your key." Ethan's heart stopped. The clerk had said someone checked in early, with his name. Before he could speak again, the bathroom light flickered behind her and she vanished, as if the storm itself had swallowed her. He rushed forward, calling her name, but the bathroom was empty again. The mirror reflected only him, drenched in sweat, wild-eyed, shaking. Then he saw it, carved faintly into the wall behind the mirror. Words scratched by something sharp, half hidden by the frame. Checked the floorboard. Beneath the light. He grabbed the lamp that had gone dark, pulled it aside and found the loose wooden plank beneath. Using the edge of his car key, he pried it up. Inside the hollow space lay another key tag, identical to his, but older, rusted. It read Room 217, and beneath the number, etched into the metal, "Property of Claire Reeves." Beside it was a single motel ledger page, torn and folded. He opened it. Guest log, July 11th, 2022. Room 217, Claire Reeves, Ethan Cole, Room 215. M. Dalton. Ethan's pulse spiked. Dalton. He knew that name. Mark Dalton, Claire's old boss from the insurance firm. He'd been at the motel that same night. He dropped the paper, his mind reeling. It was him, he whispered. It was always him. The storm outside roared now, wind rattling the window frame. A bolt of lightning illuminated the room, and for an instant, in the reflection of the mirror, Ethan saw a man standing behind him, tall, dark hair. Suit jacket, the same description the clerk had given. Ethan spun around. Nothing. Just the sound of rain. He staggered backward, clutching his chest, when suddenly his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He pulled it out. No number, no signal, just a single text message that read, "Room 215 now." He looked up at the ceiling, half expecting an answer. "What do you want from me?" he shouted. The power went out completely. The only light came from the occasional lightning flash through the window. He stood there alone in the dark, listening to the storm and his own heartbeat. Then he grabbed the old key from the floor, stuffed it into his pocket beside the cassette and whispered, "Fine." He opened the door and stepped out into the rain. The hallway was dim, lit only by emergency bulbs flickering every few seconds. The carpet squished under his wet shoes. As he walked past each door, he could hear faint sounds, whispers, breathing, the creak of bed springs, though every door was supposed to be empty. He stopped outside Room 215. The number plate hung crooked. He hesitated, then used the old key. The lock clicked open easily, as if it had been waiting. Inside was darkness and a faint smell of cologne, the same scent that had clung to Claire's clothes that night. He flicked on the light. The room was almost identical to his, except for one thing. On the bed sat a leather briefcase, old, scratched, the initials MD engraved on the brass clasp. Ethan opened it. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them. Polaroids, letters, motel bills. Everyone tied to Room 217, everyone showing different guests, all scared, all alone. And in each photo, reflected faintly in the mirror behind them, stood the same shadow. Tall. Dark hair. Suit jacket. The man who checked in early. The man who never left. Ethan's breath came in short gasps. He dropped the photo in his hand, and that's when he saw it. On the back, scrawled in thick black ink. "You're next, Ethan." Thunder cracked overhead. The lights went out again. From somewhere behind him, deep in the dark, came a low whisper. "Welcome back to Room 217. Rain hammered against the windows of the Desert Star Motel as Ethan stood frozen inside Room 215, the photograph trembling in his hand. The whisper, "Welcome back to Room 217, still hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. He turned slowly toward the sound. Nothing. Only the dim yellow glow of the emergency bulb outside the half-open door. The briefcase lay on the bed, its papers scattered like dead leaves. Ethan's breath came in ragged bursts. His thoughts spiraled. Claire's ghost, the note, the Polaroids, the man with his face, none of it fit together. But one name did, Mark Dalton. Claire's boss. The one man she said she feared before she died. He crouched beside the bed, picking through the photographs again. Everyone told the same story. A frightened guest in Room 217, always the same blurred figure reflected in the mirror. But one photo was different. The reflection was clear. The man was smiling, and Ethan recognized him. Dalton. A wave of nausea hit him. Dalton had been here that night. Claire must have met him. Maybe she thought he'd help her. Maybe he promised her protection, the kind of promise room 217 was made to break. A noise came from the hallway. Slow footsteps, deliberate, heavy. Ethan's muscles tensed. The doorknob began to turn inch by inch. He grabbed the lamp from the nightstand, ready to swing. The door creaked open. "Ethan?" It was the motel clerk. The old man from the office, his raincoat dripping onto the carpet. Ethan exhaled, lowering the lamp slightly. "You scared the hell out of me." The clerk didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked around the room, landing on the open briefcase. "You shouldn't be in here, son." "I'm looking for the truth," Ethan said, voice shaking. "Claire Reeves. You remember her?" The old man's jaw tightened. "I remember too much." "You knew Dalton," Ethan pressed. "He stayed here the same night she died." "Why didn't you tell the police?" The clerk's shoulders sagged. "Because they already knew. Half this town's payroll came from his company. Folks like me just kept our heads down." He stepped closer, his voice low. "Room 217 was Dalton's idea. He owned this place once. Used it for meetings, for things better forgotten. When people got too close, accidents happened." Ethan's grip on the lamp tightened. "And Claire? She wasn't supposed to die," the old man said. "She found something in his briefcase. Contracts, bank slips, proof of what he'd done." Dalton panicked. "He called me that night, told me to make the room look empty. Said he'd take care of it himself." Lightning flashed outside, throwing the room into stark relief. The old man's face looked ancient, carved from guilt. "I found her," he whispered, "in the bathtub." He'd already gone. Ethan felt the floor tilt beneath him. "How you helped cover it up?" The clerk's eyes met his. "I tried to stop him. But room 217, it doesn't let things go." The next morning the blood was gone. The sheets were clean, but her key tag was still on the nightstand. That's when I knew. Knew what? That she never left. A sudden knock interrupted them, hard, fast at the door of room 217 down the hall. 3 knocks. The same rhythm Ethan had heard earlier. The clerk paled. "Don't answer it." But the sound came again, louder, shaking the walls. Ethan's pulse thundered. "Someone's in there." "Then let them stay there," the old man hissed. "The ones who go in after dark don't come out the same." But Ethan was already moving. He grabbed the old key, Claire's key, as from his pocket, and walked into the hallway. The lights flickered as thunder rolled. The air smelled of dust and ozone. He stopped in front of room 217. The door stood slightly ajar, swaying in the draft. A faint light glowed inside. He glanced back. The clerk was gone. The hallway was empty. Ethan pushed the door open. The room looked different. Cleaner. The bed made, the lamp fixed, the curtains neatly drawn. It looked like time had reversed itself. Only the air was wrong. Cold, damp, humming faintly like an engine idling somewhere far below. He stepped inside and closed the door. The moment the latch clicked, the hum deepened. The mirror above the dresser rippled like water. In its surface, Claire stood by the window, her reflection clearer than before. "Claire," he whispered. She turned slowly, her eyes sad. "You shouldn't have come back." "I had to," he said. "I found Dalton's photos." "He killed you." She shook her head. "No, Ethan, the room killed me. It used him." "It uses everyone who lies inside it." Ethan frowned. "That doesn't make sense. It feeds on promises," she said softly. "You said you'd come back for me." "Dalton promised me safety." The clerk promised silence. "We all broke something." Her form flickered. "Now it wants you to finish it." Lightning flared through the window, and for a split second he saw a third figure in the reflection, a tall man in a dark suit standing directly behind him. He spun around. No one there. When he turned back, the mirror was fogged again. Letters appeared slowly in the condensation, one by one. One promise left. The air turned frigid. The floorboards began to creak under invisible weight. The lights pulsed and died, plunging the room into darkness. Ethan fumbled for his phone, but the screen glowed only long enough to display a new message. From unknown subject, payment due message. You broke your word. Ethan. The phone went black. He felt a presence beside him, a whisper near his ear. Finish what you started. His breath clouded in the cold air. What do you want? To keep the promise, the voice said. The floorboards cracked open near the bed, a long split revealing something buried beneath, the outline of another box, identical to the first. Ethan knelt and pried it free. His hands shook as he lifted the lid. Inside was another Polaroid, the most recent yet. It showed him standing in room 217, right now holding the box. Behind him, in the mirror, Claire smiled faintly. A second later, the mirror shattered outward, shards flying across the room. The wind howled through the broken window, carrying her voice with it. A key, a room, and a promise that should never have been made. Ethan stumbled backward, clutching the photo. The box slipped from his hand and hit the floor. The key inside rattled once, twice, then went still. When the storm finally passed, the motel fell silent. Hours later, a police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. The clerk stood under the awning, pale and shaking. "There's been another one," he told the officer. Room 217 they entered carefully. The room was spotless. Bed made, window closed. No sign of struggle, only a single Polaroid on the nightstand, showing the door to room 217 standing open, and a faint reflection of two figures walking away into the rain. One of them looked like a man, the other a woman, and the key tag left behind read simply, "Vacant." Morning never truly came to Desert Star Motel. The horizon outside was grey, washed in a colourless light that could not decide whether it belonged to dawn or dusk. The desert was still soaked from the night storm, puddles glinting like mirrors between cracks in the asphalt. The sign that once buzzed vacancy now flickered weakly, only the letters ANSI surviving. Inside room 217, time felt like it had stopped altogether. The air was cold and stale. The bed stood neatly made, the lamp fixed, the curtains freshly pressed, as if the night before had been erased by unseen hands. But near the nightstand, a faint scorch mark darkened the carpet, shaped vaguely like a human footprint. Detective Laura Green stood by the doorway, taking slow notes in her pad. She had been in homicide long enough to know the smell of death. There wasn't any, not yet. But something about this room made her skin crawl anyway. Her partner, Officer Reyes, crouched beside the nightstand. No blood, no body, just this photo. He held up the Polaroid sealed in a plastic bag. It showed two figures walking away through the rain, blurred, almost spectral. Green squinted. "That's him," she said quietly. "Ethan Cole, the same guy missing from last night," Reyes nodded. Motel clerk said the last thing he heard before the lights went out was screaming. By the time he got here, this room looked different. Different how? He says it cleaned itself. Green gave him a look. He's old, Reyes, probably confused. Reyes didn't answer. He kept staring at the photo. "Then how do you explain this?" The Polaroid shimmered faintly in the plastic sleeve, like the surface of a lake catching sunlight. Green looked around again, at the dresser, the mirror, the walls. Her reflection in the glass seemed slightly out of sync, lagging a fraction of a second behind her movement. She frowned, stepping closer. Her reflection didn't blink. She froze, Reyes noticed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she lied. "Just weird glass." But as she turned away, her reflection smiled. That evening, the investigation was quietly closed. The sheriff's office logged it as a disappearance, presumed voluntary. Ethan Cole's car was found abandoned 2 miles from the motel, keys still in the ignition, radio humming static. The old clerk was taken in for questioning, but released the same night. He wouldn't stop whispering about the room that remembers. Within a week, Desert Star Motel was boarded up. No one came near it. The neon sign finally went dark for good. For nearly 3 months, the desert reclaimed the parking lot, dust and tumbleweed covering the cracked asphalt like a shroud. Only the wind visited, moaning softly through broken windows, until one night in November, the first heavy rain since that storm. A rental car pulled up, headlights cutting through the downpour. Detective Green stepped out, rain soaking her trench coat instantly. She had taken early retirement 2 weeks prior, but something about the case refused to leave her. Room 217. She walked past the faded office window, the clerk's desk still inside, chair turned toward the door as if waiting. She moved down the long hall, her boots splashing in small puddles forming in the cracked tiles. Each door she passed bore a number faded with age. 209, 211, 213, and then 217. The door was closed, but the lock looked new. Someone had changed it. A small envelope was taped to the wood, Her name was written across it. Detective Green. Her pulse quickened. She tore it open. Inside was a single Polaroid. It showed her standing in that very hallway reading the note. She dropped it, her breath fogging in the air. "Hello," she whispered. The hallway lights flickered once, twice, then went dark. A hum filled the air, low, mechanical, pulsing from inside room 217. She reached for her gun, though she wasn't sure why. Her fingers trembled as she turned the knob. It opened easily. The room looked identical to how the reports had described it. Neat, silent, timeless. The lamp glowed softly, though the bulb had been shattered months ago. Green stepped inside. On the bed sat a small wooden box. The same one the crime scene photos had shown. Its lid was slightly open. She reached out him and the door slammed shut behind her. The hum grew louder. From the mirror came a faint voice, distant, echoing. Detective Green. "You found the photo." She spun toward the sound, gun raised. "Who's there?" The mirror rippled like water. The faint outline of a man appeared. Dark suit, shadowed face. "You shouldn't have come back, Ethan Cole," she whispered. The reflection smiled. "That's what they called me." He stepped closer, or rather his reflection did. The real room stayed empty. The room keeps its word, Detective. Everyone who promises to find the truth finds it. Everyone who lies stays. She backed toward the door, heart hammering. "What did you do to Claire Reeves?" "Me?" His voice was soft. "I didn't do anything. I tried to save her. But room 217 doesn't forgive broken promises." The mirror darkened. Behind his reflection, another shape appeared. A woman's silhouette, hair dripping, eyes hollow. "Claire." "He came back," she whispered. "So must you." The lamp flickered violently. The mirror cracked, lines spreading like veins. "Stop!" Green shouted. "This isn't real!" But the hum became a roar. The floor trembled. The mirror exploded outward, glass slicing through the air. She ducked, but a shard caught her cheek. When she looked up, the room had changed. The walls were cleaner. The air smelled faintly of coffee and perfume. Morning sunlight streamed through half-open curtains. She was standing in the past. Claire sat on the bed, crying softly. Ethan knelt in front of her, holding her hands. Green recognized the moment from the police reconstruction photos. This was the night. Claire looked up suddenly, straight at her. "You promised you'd come back," she said, though not to Ethan. Her eyes were locked on Green. Ethan froze. "Claire?" Claire pointed toward the window. "He's here." The door burst open. A man in a suit entered, Mark Dalton. His face twisted with rage. Green's gun was in her hand before she realized she'd drawn it. "Dalton!" she yelled, but no one heard her. She wasn't in the scene. She was inside the memory. Dalton lunged at Ethan. The fight was short, brutal. A gunshot echoed. Claire screamed. Then silence. Ethan collapsed, blood blooming across his shirt. Dalton stood over him, panting, and turned toward the mirror. His reflection and Green's overlapped. He stared at her through the glass. "You see it now," he said, voice echoing across time. "This room never forgets. The world warped." The image shattered into light. Green gasped and stumbled backward, crashing into the dresser. She was back in the present, alone, trembling, blood trickling from her cheek. The mirror was whole again. The wooden box sat on the bed, closed. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. One new message. A key, a room, and a promise that should never have been made. Her breath caught as she looked at the nightstand. The motel key lay there, gleaming softly. 217, and next to it, a new Polaroid. It showed her, standing exactly where she was now, staring at the bed. Behind her reflection, in the mirror, stood Ethan and Claire, side by side, smiling faintly. The overhead light flickered once more, then went out. Outside, the rain stopped. Weeks later, travelers along the old highway noticed the Desert Star sign glowing again for the first time in years. The office door stood open. A vacancy tag hung on the board. Inside the logbook, the last entry was written in neat handwriting. Room 217, L. Green checked in. No one ever checked out. Final image description, if cinematic, A. Slow camera pan pulls away from the motel as twilight falls. The neon sign hums softly. Through the window of room 217, a faint light glows. Inside, 3 silhouettes sit together at the table. Ethan, Claire, and Detective Green, motionless. as though caught in an endless loop of promises, waiting for the next guest to arrive. End of room 217. The desert stretched silent under a white, washed-out sky. Nothing moved except the heat shimmer above the cracked asphalt that led to the abandoned Desert Star Motel. For almost 6 months, no one had set foot inside. Locals called it the Dead Mile, a stretch of road where radios went silent, phones lost signal, and headlights sometimes reflected shapes that weren't there. By now, most people had forgotten room 217. Only a few still whispered its name. The ones who had seen the light still flickering in its window long after the power was cut off, but one man hadn't. Forgotten. The return. Miles Turner parked his pickup near the rusted motel. Sign and sat there for a moment, staring through the cracked windshield. The sign buzzed weakly, its letters half dead. Vacancy. He'd driven 200 miles to see this place. The file on the passenger seat, yellowed newspaper clippings, police notes, and photographs, had consumed him for months. His older sister, Detective Laura Green, had vanished here. They found her badge inside room 217. Her last text message had read, "Don't come here. Miles, the room lies." But Miles had never been good at following orders. He stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, and walked toward the office. The air smelled like wet dust and motor oil. The office door was ajar, creaking softly. Inside, the old clerk's chair sat empty, cobwebs stretching from the arms to the counter. A logbook lay open. The last entry, room 217, L. Green, checked in, and beneath it written faintly in red ink, checked out, never. Miles swallowed hard. Laura. He flipped the page. A Polaroid fell out, face down. He turned it over and froze. It was a photo of him standing in the office doorway, right now. The image was fresh. The ink still wet. Tattoo. The room waits. Room 217 sat at the end of the hall, its door perfectly clean, its number polished as if someone had been taking care of it. Miles reached for the knob. Cold metal. Too cold, he hesitated. It's just a room, he muttered. Just a damn room. He pushed it open. Dust hung in the air, swirling in the thin beam of sunlight that slipped through the curtains. The room looked frozen in time. The bed perfectly made, the lamp softly glowing though unplugged, the nightstand holding a small wooden box. The same box. He stepped closer. The lid was closed, but faint whispering seemed to leak from inside, like someone talking through walls. He couldn't make out the words, only the rhythm. Then the sound changed. A woman's voice, familiar. Miles. Don't. He spun around. The room was empty. But the voice had come from the mirror. He walked toward it, staring at his reflection. For a moment it looked normal. Then his reflection smiled. He didn't. Laura, he said softly. The reflection blinked and tilted its head. For a fraction of a second her face replaced his. You shouldn't have come here, she whispered. It remembers you. Miles took a step back, shaking. Where are you? Everywhere this place touches. Tell me what happened. Her voice grew fainter. You can't save me. You can only keep your promise. And what promise? The room answered with a loud click. The door slammed shut behind him. The lamp flickered 3 times, then went dark. The box on the nightstand opened by itself. Inside lay a cassette tape labeled in fading handwriting, July 11th, final session and a motel key. The tag read 217. He picked it up. It was warm as 3. The tape. Miles found an old cassette player in the dresser. He inserted the tape, pressed play static. Then a man's voice, shaking, desperate. My name is Ethan Cole. If anyone finds this, don't try to save us. This room, what it copies you. It remembers every promise, every lie, every face. It keeps them here. Claire thought she could destroy it. But you can't destroy a memory. You can only feed it, the tape hissed. It takes whoever breaks their word. It took her. It took me. It'll take the next one who tries to leave without paying their debt. If you're listening, it's already watching you. The player clicked off. Miles stared at it, his pulse pounding. He didn't know why, but he looked at the mirror again. And now there were 3 reflections. His own, Laura's, and a man in a dark suit standing just behind them both. He turned sharply. Nothing there. When he looked back, the mirror was empty. 4. The debt hours passed, though the light outside never changed. Miles sat on the edge of the bed, holding the cassette. Every so often he swore he heard faint knocking from inside the walls. like someone moving through the motel itself. At some point, exhaustion overtook him. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, it was night. The lamp was glowing again. The wooden box was gone. And sitting on the table was a Polaroid camera. A single note beside it read, "The room must remember. Take the photo." He stared at it, jaw tight. "No. Take the photo." The voice was everywhere now, whispering through the vents, the mattress, even the walls. Miles stood, shaking his head. "Oh, you think I'll feed you? You think I'll let you win?" He grabbed the camera and hurled it at the wall. It shattered. The flash went off, once bright and blinding. When his vision cleared, he wasn't in the motel anymore. He was standing in the middle of the desert at dusk. The Desert Star Motel behind him looked new again, freshly painted, neon lights bright and humming. Cars filled the lot, and from the office doorway his sister stepped out smiling. "You're late, Miles," he blinked. "Laura?" She looked younger, alive. "They need us to check in. Don't keep them waiting." She held out a key. "Tag number 217, he shook his head. "You're not real." Her smile faded. "Neither are you." He turned and saw his reflection in the motel window, but it wasn't his. It was Ethan Cole's face staring back. Behind him, the neon light flickered. "Vacancy." He dropped the key. It hit the ground with a sharp metallic sound, and the illusion shattered. 5, the collapse. The room returned in a rush of darkness and sound. The storm was back. Wind howled through the broken window, ripping the curtains apart. The walls cracked, revealing layers beneath, other rooms other times. Hundreds of faces embedded in the plaster, whispering. "Miles, stay with us." He stumbled backward, covering his ears. "No, you don't get me." The floor buckled. The mirror shattered again. From within its frame, something reached out. Pale hands, dozens of them, grasping for him. He fought, pulled away, grabbed the lamp and smashed the remaining glass. Light exploded from the fracture. White. Searing, endless, and then silence as 6. The aftermath 3 days later. Highway workers reported seeing smoke near the old motel. By the time authorities arrived, Desert Star was gone. The structure had collapsed inward, as though swallowed by the earth itself. They found no bodies. Only debris, but among the ashes an evidence team recovered a small, unburned Polaroid. It showed the ruins of the motel, but standing in the doorway of where room 217 once was, were 3 figures, a man, a woman, and another man beside them. Their faces were calm, watching, waiting. On the back of the photo, written in clean, neat handwriting, "Promise kept." Epilogue years later, a new gas station was built on the site. Travelers stopped there for fuel, unaware of the story beneath the concrete. But sometimes on nights when the air was still and the lights flickered, the clerk swore he could hear a faint sound from the back office, the click of a Polaroid camera, and a voice whispering softly through the static. Room 217. Still remembers.